Let's talk for just a moment about the difficulty you have in giving when your mind is based on perception or reciprocalness. In reality, there is no distance between cause and effect. Every thought that you're having is having a total and full creative measure of immediate return. You don't know this because you're in time, but it's time that you learn this. The law of cause and effect in time is inevitable because what we teach is true. You literally, in your mind, can only get back the value that you place on something in the thought that you give. I'm giving you this now as a fact, so that those of you who place a value on something outside of you that you're attempting to learn, say, within a framework, perhaps if you spend $100 and go to a seminar, or you spend $50 for a new suit of clothes, you will get back exactly the value that you place on the $100, not more and not less. Now, your necessity to exchange is a positive indication that you don't believe this. This is in the Course in Miracles, but that doesn't make any difference. I'm giving you this as fact. Whatever you value will return to you in kind, don't you see? It cannot not be so. Somehow, when you attempt to accumulate, you feel a lack and believe that there's something outside of you, okay? So that you can give something that you value less and get something back that you value more. That's crazy. It's impossible. What are my teachings then? How do I adjust to that within this framework of time? The only way that you could ever hear this message is to give everything away. Okay. Now, I guess within your framework you're going to constitute a practice. Okay. And this is what the Course in Miracles is. A practice in relinquishment. Okay. You give some away and then you take some back, and then you feel the pain of possession and you give a little more away, and finally you free yourself by this absolute giving. Okay. It's very important that you see that you cannot see the worthlessness also of what you possess, its valuelessness, until you've given it all away. If you hold on to one single thing here, isn't this so? If you possess one idea of value of the earth, it's exactly the same as possessing all ideas of value. Okay? And the whole miracle of reality won't work, will it? Why? Because your mind remains split. And this is a very fundamental teaching, but remember that you must make the psychological application in your own mind in order to see it. Jesus calls us A Course in Miracles because of that, where the manifestation of giving appears in the framework of happiness or love that you experience, and the shift in the apparent phenomena that's around you. And finally, though, the greatest miracle and only real miracle that could ever occur would be your awakening, of you coming whole in your mind. Okay? And that's the miracle that is coming about in you now. Only your awakening. There will be a lot of signs along the way, okay? A lot of indications, and we want you to have them, but we're teaching a whole step above that. You observe the phenomena, but finally we're teaching subjective reality. We're teaching phenomena. You are the cause and you are the effect. And now you're awake. And just for a moment you feel that the incredible glory of total commitment. And the bondage that binds that have held you simply fall away from you and you're free. Exchange is impossible. We've got lesson 76. You can't give something away and you can't get something back. You can only be you in truth and beauty. I'll be back. Let's talk about forgiveness now and facing your fear. I'm going to read without comment here now the a definition in the teacher's manual of the Course in Miracles on forgiveness in the face of Christ. The comment I'll make to you in your transformation is that your total forgiveness comes by the brightness of a transcendent mind that quite literally sees the face of Christ, doesn't it? So without comment, if I could keep myself from commenting, there's a lovely young mind that wrote this. It is a dear friend of ours. Listen. Forgiveness in the face of Christ. Forgiveness is for God and toward God, but not of Him. It is impossible to think of anything He created that could need forgiveness. Forgiveness then is an illusion, isn't it? But because of its purpose, which is to relinquish pain and death, okay, which is the Holy Spirit, it has one difference. Unlike all other illusions, it leads away from error and not toward it. Wow. Forgiveness might be called a kind of happy fiction, a way in which the unknowing can bridge the gap between their perceptions and the truth. Since it's really impossible that they don't know, obviously it's an illusion. They cannot go directly from perception to knowledge because they do not think it is their will to do so. This makes God appear to be an enemy instead of what He really is. And it is just this insane perception that makes them unwilling merely to rise up and to return to Him in peace. And this is why there's a necessity that we teach this. And we teach it as transformation, don't we? And so they need an illusion of help because they are helpless, not in reality, but in time. A thought of peace because they are in conflict. God knows what His Son needs before He asks. He is not at all concerned with form, but having given the content, it is His will that it be understood, and that suffices. The form adapts itself to need. The content is unchanging, as eternal as is its creator. Now, the face of Christ has to be seen before the memory of God can return. And this is the idea of illumination, isn't it? The idea of the transformation of your mind. The reason is obvious. Seeing the face of Christ involves perception. No one can look on knowledge, but the face of Christ is the great symbol of forgiveness. It is salvation. It is the symbol of the real world. Whoever looks on this no longer sees the world. He is as near to heaven as is possible outside the gate. Yet from this gate, it is no more than just a step inside. It is the final step, and this we leave to God, and this is what will occur. Now, forgiveness is a symbol too, but as the symbol of His will alone, it cannot be divided. And so the unity that it reflects becomes His will. Okay, unity is the will of God. That single statement that He's a creator is your salvation, isn't it? It is the only thing still in the world in part, and yet the bridge to heaven. God's will is all there is. We can but go from nothingness to everything, from hell to heaven. Is this a journey? No, not in truth, for truth goes nowhere. But illusions shift from place to place and from time to time. Now, the final step is also but a shift. As a perception, it is part unreal, and yet this part will vanish. What remains is peace eternal and the will of God. There are no wishes now, for wishes change. Even the wished for can become unwelcome. That must be so because the ego cannot be at peace. But will is constant as the gift of God, and what He gives is always like Himself. This is the purpose of the face of Christ. It is the gift of God to save His Son. But look on this, and you have been forgiven. How lovely does the world become in just that single instant when you see the truth about yourself reflected there. Now you are sinless, and behold your sinlessness. Now you are holy, and perceive it so. Now the mind returns to its Creator. The joining of the Father and the Son, the unity of unities that stands behind all joining, but beyond them all. God is not seen, but only understood. His Son is not attacked, but recognized. Isn't that lovely from the teacher's manual of the Course, a definition of forgiveness and a statement about the necessity for the illumination of the mind, the change in perception that's necessary, the transformation, the new birth. And that's what's happening to you. And as you recognize it is happening in your brother and forgive him your illusions, you come to share this single statement of truth. And how can things be separate if they have a total common goal? That's what we proclaim to you now. Okay? Separate goals are impossible, teacher. The goal to forgive, the goal to become whole is the only one there is or has ever been in this dream of sickness and death and times. You come whole with us now and wake up. Those of you who are hearing this for the first and last time, understand that this is reality that we're presenting to you now. Not in consort with other perceptual evaluations, not in association with traditions of the so-called world, but in our single statement of the transformation of your individual mind. Isn't that lovely? We hope to see you soon. Thank you. Time and space has never kept us apart, has it? We are remembering. And the light begins to shine now, doesn't it? You lay aside these fear thoughts, and there's just that moment of hesitation, and then, isn't that lovely? How bright you're all becoming now. How real, how spirited, how alive, how miraculous. From out of the past now and from out of the future, finally out of all time, you come now. What matters how long it's been when you have come. And now we awaken to that glory of reality. It was just a little sleep. The dream is over. Welcome home, teachers. A long journey now, as Lady Nowhere is over. Exciting, how exciting to see the minds awaken now. Come up out of the grave of death and earth to light. Happy Easter, teachers. He is risen. He is risen indeed. We'll see you soon here at God's country place or around the world. Our minds join now this revelation, resurrection. Bless us, everyone.